Okay, today we're going to look at ratios in the form 1 to n. One of the main uses of ratios is to compare two or more amounts. And it's really helpful sometimes if one of your amounts is 1. So you can say, well, if I've got one of these, how many of the other do I need? So that's something we often do. So it's a little bit like simplifying ratios, but slightly different because we always want one of the sides to be 1. So sometimes it just happens when you simplify it. So this one here, ratio 6 to 18, it's got a common factor of 6. So if I divide both sides by 6, I'll get 1, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So that one automatically went in the form 1 to n when I simplified it, but usually they won't. So 2 to 21, if I want to get this in the form 1 to n, well, the very definition is the left-hand side needs to be 1. So I had to divide by 2 to get this 1. So whatever you do to one part, you must do to the other part. So if I divide 21 by 2, I get 10.5 or 10.5. Previously, when we've been simplifying ratios, we didn't want a decimal or a fraction in the ratio, but when we're writing them in the form 1 to n, that's inevitable, and that's absolutely fine. So that's in the form 1 to n there. 3 to 8, well, I want it to be 1 to something, so I've divided by 3. This is when using fractions is really helpful. So I've divided by 3, so in the first instance, I can just write it as 8 over 3. And actually sometimes it's fine to leave it like that, but for comparison reasons, it's often better to turn it into a mixed number. So 8 over 3, 8/3 as a mixed number is 2 and 2/3. You can also write it as a decimal, 1 to 2.6 recurring, but actually 1 over 2/3 is probably the nicest, most accurate way of writing that one. So those are all in the form 1 to n. Sometimes though, you might want to compare it the other way around and write them in the form n to 1. If you want the one on the right to be the one that you have as a single value to compare the others. And that just works in exactly the same way. So this one, I want the right hand side to be 1, so I divide by 3. That one works out nice and neat as a whole number. 19 to 4, I want the right hand side to become 1, so I've divided by 4. So I'm just going to write this as 19 over 4 in the first case, and then write that as a mixed number. That's going to be 4 and 3/4, or if you want it as a decimal, maybe it was money or something like that, 4.75 to 1. And this is useful because for every 1 here, you've got 4.75 there. That's why this is a useful process. And the final one I'm going to do here, sometimes the side that you want 1 can be the larger one to start off with. It doesn't make any difference, it just works in the same way. So I'm dividing by 10, so I get 7 over 10, 7/10, or if you prefer, 0.7. So these are ratios in the form 1 to n. These are in the form n to 1, but really it's the same process.